Hello, this is Carnifex Alpha talking to you on YouTube for the first time on my own vlog. My first video is going to be a review of the book series, The Horus Heresy. In particular, a book called 1,000 Suns. I know I'm not actually starting at the beginning, which is Horus Rising, but I thought I might do 1,000 Suns first because at the moment that's the most recent one to be released, and also it's actually one of the best. It's topped British sci-fi sales. It's now #1, and it's also reached into the New York Times bestseller list. 1,000 Suns is a story that deals with a legion of superhuman soldiers that are used by Imperium of Man in the 31st millennium to actually reunite human colonies across the galaxy. It starts off very well and gets better throughout the way through it. Unlike the rest of the series, it's kind of like, for those of you who are into it and have read the books, it's kind of like Mechanicum, but without the first third of it being very hard to read. It's actually very easy to get into. A couple of niggles before I get into the best parts. It's how do we say? For the fans of the series and those who know about some of the lore, he does throw around the word throne a lot in mid-sentence, which is basically a curse. But the throne doesn't exist yet. Secondly, another little niggle is just the fact that there are some spelling errors here and there, but overall they're drowned out by the really brilliant pieces of writing that he did in this book. In this book, this is a legion of super soldiers that have psychic powers. And I know for some of you that may not sound like a lot, but when these guys go to war, they don't just take the gun and split it open and show you it. They actually end up splitting you open, showing your insides, and then putting you back together in a crumpled mess, kind of like Dr. Manhattan. Yes, that is a Watchmen reference. This particular legion of super soldiers named Space Marines is called the 1,000 Suns, and they're led by a Primarch, a supreme super soldier called Magnus the Red, and he's a supreme psyker. And during the book you learn all about him. You learn about his character and what he's like. You initially think he's arrogant and all-knowing, pompous, but he's actually one of the nicest, and actually he's perhaps one of the coolest Primarchs ever to be around. Another character in this book is called Ahriman. Now, for those of you who actually haven't read the series but are aware of the current state of Warhammer 40k, you know that Ahriman is a traitor, and in this book he's actually perhaps one of the most loyal Space Marine soldiers of all time. Same as Magnus the Red was one of the most loyal Space Marine Primarchs of all time. Everything he did to please his father, and also everything he did to help. His main goal in this book was to try and see, with another character, Lemuel and Callista and Camille, if I remember their names rightly. He wanted them to be taught the ways of the Psychers, and wanted them to learn how to utilise their powers. Magnus's dream was to actually get all people, from what you get in this book, is his dream was to get all humans to become like him, supreme beings without the need of flesh. Basically, we become the Ascended in Stargate. But it turns out to go really horrible towards the end. It doesn't go according to plan. And the way Graham McNeill writes, it's really good because he doesn't need to do a lot of action. He doesn't need to do a lot of big things in this book a lot of the time. He just writes it and makes it work and sound really awesome in the same space. Matter of fact, any of you fanboys of the Horus Heresy series will actually notice that there's a hell of a lot of Primarchs, an unusually high amount. There's at least 6 Primarchs, and then you've got the Emperor of Mankind featured in this book as well. And then you've got God knows how many freaking bloody factions of legions you've got. I think you've actually got oh wait, now you've got the Space Wolves, the Custodies. How? You're actually missing a few characters out the front of this. But you also have members from the White Scars, and the 6 Primarchs in this book, if I were to name them off rightfully, would be Leman Russ, as standard, Magnus the Red, which you would expect, Lorgar, some people wouldn't expect, Mortarion, and that's a really big one, Sanguinius, and Fulgrim. Now, a lot of people who like Graham McNeil's work will obviously go, oh, look, it's Fulgrim. But as I said, throughout this book you learn about how the Psykers themselves, the psychic faction of Space Marines, are actually treated within the Empire. They're considered sorcerers, warlocks, evil people. They shouldn't be trusted at all. And Magnus tries to show them that they can be trusted and that they are useful people, and their whole goal is just to collect knowledge. But halfway through the book, Magnus sees something which he shouldn't see, and tries to do something which he shouldn't, and gets told off for it, and then that leads to another thing, and his brother Leman Russ just goes apeshit. For lack of a better word, yeah. To cut this short, Thousand Sons is a great book. For those of you who are interested in the Horus Heresy series and haven't read them, I'd say it's a good book to start with. It's a very good book to start with. Very few, it pales any other book by far. Then you've got great characters, great storyline, and also it's kind of haunting towards the end, because you realise this isn't actually, even people in 40k who read a lot of the fluff, they realise that this isn't actually chapter versus traitor, this is chapter versus chapter, and big oops, very very big oops. So before this cuts into my 10-minute slot, I'm going to say goodbye, thank you for listening, and hopefully it's been a good review for you.